Turning 60 didn't happen with a bang. It came quietly, like a shift I didn't notice at first. I wasn't sick. I wasn't in pain. But I started feeling off. I would walk into a room and forget why I was there. I'd get tired doing things that never used to slow me down. One morning, I stood in front of the fridge, just staring. I had no idea what I was looking for. And for the first time, I felt a little afraid. Not because I forgot something. We all do that. But because it felt like my mind wasn't as sharp as it used to be. That's when I started asking questions. Could the food I've been eating be part of the problem? Could certain things I've eaten for years, even things I thought were healthy, actually be working against me now? The truth is, after 60, our bodies change. Our brains need more protection. And some foods, especially the ones we don't think twice about, can slowly drain our energy, hurt our memory, and make aging feel a lot harder than it needs to be. So in this video, I'm going to share 10 foods I've learned to avoid after turning 60, not from a textbook, but from real experience, because I've lived through the difference, and I want to help you feel clearer, stronger, and more like yourself again. 1. White bread and refined carbs. I grew up in a house where white bread was on the table every single day. Toast in the morning, sandwiches for lunch, maybe some garlic bread with dinner. It was normal. It was comforting. It reminded me of Sunday mornings with the radio on and the smell of eggs frying in the kitchen. Even after 60, I kept eating it, not thinking twice. But something started changing. I noticed I would feel full, and then suddenly hungry again. I'd get this crash in the middle of the day where I felt foggy, like I couldn't focus. I thought maybe I was just tired, but it happened too often. So I started reading. And what I found surprised me. White bread and other refined carbs like white rice, sugary cereals, and even crackers break down fast into sugar in our bodies. That sugar rush feels good for a little while, but then comes the crash. And after 60, our metabolism slows down, our insulin response weakens, and those blood sugar spikes hit us harder. More than that, I learned that refined carbs can increase inflammation, mess with memory, and even put us at risk for things like type 2 diabetes or cognitive decline. No one ever told me that when I was younger. So I made a small change. I switched from white bread to whole grain or sprouted grain bread. I started eating oatmeal in the morning instead of toast, and I added cinnamon for flavor and blood sugar support. It wasn't a big sacrifice, just a smarter choice. And here's the honest truth. Within a few weeks, I noticed I wasn't getting that midday crash anymore. My energy was steadier. My thinking was clearer. That little switch made a big difference. I'm not saying you have to throw out every slice of bread in your house, but after 60, we need to look at food not just for comfort, but for what it does after we eat it. White bread may seem harmless, but for me, it was one of the first things I had to say goodbye to. 2. Artificial sweeteners. Back in my 50s, I thought I was doing the smart thing. I switched from regular soda to diet. I picked up those sugar-free yogurts, little pink and blue packets for my coffee, sugar-free cookies here and there. I told myself, good job, you're cutting sugar. But the truth? I didn't feel better. In fact, I started getting more headaches. My sleep got worse. My digestion was off. And the worst part? I started craving sweets even more, so I sat down one day and looked it all up. And what I found really opened my eyes. Artificial sweeteners, the ones we think are saving us, can actually confuse the brain. Your body gets the taste of sweetness but no calories, so it thinks something is wrong. That triggers hunger, cravings, and a strange hormonal reaction. And here's the scary part. Some studies show that long-term use of artificial sweeteners may be linked to increased risk of stroke, dementia, and metabolic issues. especially in older adults. That really got my attention. After that, I made a decision. No more fake sweeteners. I switched to real things, just in moderation. A little raw honey, a bit of maple syrup, and sometimes stevia if I needed it. But I trained my taste buds to expect less sweetness overall. At first, coffee tasted bitter. Yogurt felt plain. But within 2 weeks, my taste buds adjusted. I didn't crave sweets as much. I slept better. My headaches eased up. I even lost a few stubborn pounds without trying. We've been taught to fear sugar. And yes, too much sugar is harmful. But replacing it with artificial chemicals that mess with our brain and gut? That's not the answer either, especially not in our 60s when the brain needs all the support it can get. You don't have to give up everything sweet. Just rethink where that sweetness comes from. I did, and I'm thankful every day that I did it in time. 3. Processed meats, like bacon, sausage, and deli slices. I'll be honest with you. This one hurt because I loved bacon. Saturday mornings, the smell of it sizzling in the pan, the sound, the crunch. It was part of my life for decades. And those deli sandwiches? So easy, so satisfying. But after I turned 60, something changed. I started noticing more joint pain. My fingers felt stiff in the morning. My knees ached going up the stairs. I blamed it on age, on the weather, on anything but food. Then one day, a friend of mine, same age as me, told me she cut out processed meats, and her inflammation went way down. I was skeptical, but curious. So I gave it a shot. No bacon, no ham, no sausage, no deli turkey. Within 3 weeks, the pain in my fingers eased up. My knees didn't creak as much. I was shocked. So I looked into it. Processed meats often contain nitrates and nitrites, preservatives that have been linked to inflammation in the body. They're also loaded with sodium and sometimes hidden sugars. Over time, these can impact not just the joints, but heart health, blood pressure, and even brain aging. The World Health Organization has classified processed meats as a carcinogen. That means long-term consumption is directly linked to increased cancer risk. That scared me enough to make it a permanent change. Now, instead of bacon or sausage, I'll have an egg with avocado. Or if I want something smoky, I'll use smoked paprika on roasted vegetables. I've found new ways to enjoy flavor without paying for it in pain later. I still miss the smell of bacon sometimes, I won't lie. But when I can get up in the morning without my knees screaming at me, it's worth it. After 60, we have to make choices that protect the quality of our days. And for me, letting go of processed meats was one of the smartest choices I've made. 4. Too much caffeine. If you're anything like me, coffee has been a part of your life for decades. For most of my adult years, it was the way I started every morning. 2, maybe 3 cups before 9 o'clock. Back when I was working full-time, it kept me sharp, helped me focus, and frankly, it was a comfort. But sometime after I turned 60, I noticed something strange. I'd drink coffee in the morning, but I wouldn't feel more energized, just more restless. My hands would tremble slightly, my heart would race. And at night, even though I felt tired, I couldn't fall asleep. Or worse, I'd wake up at 2 in the morning and just stare at the ceiling. I didn't want to believe it was the coffee. I told myself, you've been drinking this stuff forever. Why now? But that's just it. Our bodies change. After 60, our liver processes caffeine more slowly. It stays in our system longer. What used to energize now overstimulates. So I did a little experiment. I cut my coffee down to just 1 cup in the morning. No refills. And I stopped drinking it after 9 a.m. I also swapped my afternoon coffee with herbal tea, chamomile, peppermint, or even just warm lemon water. The result? I started sleeping through the night. My hands stopped shaking. I felt calmer, more grounded, And interestingly enough, I actually started to enjoy that one morning cup more than ever because it became a ritual, not a crutch. I'm not saying you have to give up coffee completely. I haven't. But after 60, we have to listen to our bodies more closely. Caffeine can be sneaky. It doesn't always hit you right away, but it can throw off your sleep, your digestion, and even your mood. So take a moment and ask yourself, is that second or third cup really helping or hurting? Sometimes less really is more. 5. Fried foods. Fried chicken, onion rings, French fries. Let's be honest, they taste amazing. They remind us of family picnics, ball games, and late-night diners. For many of us, fried food is more than just food. It's nostalgia. But here's what no one told us back then. The oils used in frying, especially in restaurants, are often cheap, highly processed, and filled with what's called trans fats. These fats increase inflammation in the body and can lead to clogged arteries, joint pain, and cognitive decline. I didn't believe it until I started paying attention to how I felt after eating fried food. One night after having fried shrimp at a local diner, I woke up with acid reflux so bad I thought I was having a heart attack. My joints ached the next day. My energy dropped like a rock. That's when I started digging. I learned that fried foods create something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These nasty little compounds speed up aging in your cells, including brain cells. That blew my mind. So I made a shift. I didn't give up flavor. I just changed the method. I started baking instead of frying. I bought an air fryer and suddenly, I could enjoy crispy potatoes or chicken tenders without the grease. I also learned to use heart-healthy oils like avocado oil or olive oil in small amounts. It's not about losing joy. It's about removing what makes us feel older than we are. When I cut back on fried foods, my digestion improved, my energy returned, and I just felt lighter, physically and mentally. We've earned the right to enjoy our meals, but we've also earned the right to feel good afterward. Don't let fried foods rob you of that. 6. Canned soups and high-sodium foods. For years, I kept a few cans of soup in the pantry, just in case. You know how it is. Something quick, easy, warm on a cold day. Especially if you live alone, opening a can of chicken noodle soup can feel like the simplest solution. But after one too many headaches and nights where I woke up with swollen fingers, I started questioning what was really in those cans. So I flipped one over and read the label. The sodium, the salt, was sky high. Some of them had more than 1,000 milligrams of sodium per serving. And here's the tricky part. A can is often labeled as 2 servings, even though most people eat the whole thing in one sitting. Too much sodium raises blood pressure, which is already a concern as we age. It also makes the heart work harder, contributes to water retention, and may even affect cognitive function over time. In fact, research is starting to show that high sodium intake might be linked to a greater risk of memory problems, especially when not balanced with enough potassium. So I started doing things differently. I still wanted soup, but now I make my own. I use low-sodium broth, fresh herbs, garlic, turmeric, and veggies I already have in the fridge. I freeze small portions, so they're just as convenient as a can, but much better for my body. And when I really don't feel like cooking, I look for packaged foods labeled low sodium or no salt added. It takes a little extra time, but my blood pressure thanks me. And I sleep better, breathe easier, and wake up without feeling puffy. The little things matter. Sodium is sneaky, and it hides in more than just chips and snacks. After 60, your heart, your brain, and your kidneys are counting on you to read the label. You don't have to give up flavor, just choose it more wisely. 7. Baked goods, cakes, donuts, and pastries. I'll tell you right now, I have a sweet tooth. Always have. especially when it comes to a slice of cake after dinner or a warm donut with my morning coffee. For years, I didn't think much of it. A little treat here and there. What harm could it do? But the older I got, the more I started to notice how those treats made me feel afterward. A slice of pie would give me a quick lift, but then a deep slump. Sometimes I'd even feel foggy, anxious, or just plain tired. It wasn't just about weight anymore. It was about how my brain and body responded. You see, baked goods, the store-bought kind especially, are often loaded with refined sugar, processed flour, and unhealthy fats. That combination creates inflammation, messes with blood sugar, and over time can affect how your brain functions. After the age of 60, your body becomes more sensitive to these ingredients. Spikes in blood sugar don't just lead to diabetes. They can impact memory, focus, and mood. And that crash you feel? That's your brain trying to cope with a sudden drop in fuel. Once I made the connection, I started cutting back. Not all at once. I didn't toss every cookie in the house, but I started reading labels more carefully. I baked at home more often, using less sugar, swapping in things like almond flour or oats. I added cinnamon, vanilla, and even mashed banana for natural sweetness. And when I do have a treat now, I savor it. I don't rush it down with guilt. I make it special, not habitual. And that has made all the difference. You don't have to give up every sweet thing in life. But after 60, those sugary bites aren't just empty calories anymore. They're little signals that can speed up aging, inside and out. Treat them like guests, not roommates. 8. Sugary drinks, soda, sweet tea, and even fruit juice. There was a time when a cold soda felt like the perfect refreshment. I used to have one every afternoon, like clockwork. It gave me a quick jolt, a sense of energy, but it didn't last. Eventually, I noticed that even after drinking one, I still felt tired, and then came the bloating, the sugar crashes, the brain fog. One day, I looked at the label and realized that one can of soda had over 30 grams of sugar. That's more than 7 teaspoons in one drink. But it's not just soda. Sweetened iced tea, sports drinks, flavored coffees, and even store-bought fruit juice can have just as much, if not more, sugar than a dessert. And because we drink it, we don't always feel full. So we just keep going. After 60, this kind of sugar overload can lead to insulin resistance, weight gain, high blood pressure, and increased risk of memory decline. Even juices labeled all natural often lack fiber and deliver a fast, hard sugar hit to your system. So I made a shift. I started drinking more water, plain, with lemon or infused with fruit. I drank unsweetened iced tea and added just a splash of honey if I really needed it. And I found that sparkling water with a little lime satisfied that soda craving more than I expected. Within a few weeks, my energy was more stable. My digestion improved. My skin even looked better. And maybe best of all, I stopped craving sugar all day long. Sugary drinks are sneaky. They don't fill you up, but they weigh your body down. After 60, that's a price we can't afford to keep paying. 9. Heavy dairy. Especially for those who've become sensitive. I never used to think twice about dairy. I grew up with milk on the table, cheese in the fridge, and ice cream in the freezer. It was part of life. It was comfort. But as I got older, I started noticing things I didn't connect to food at first. Bloating after meals, a little nausea, more phlegm in my throat. My skin started reacting too. Red patches, dryness. At first, I blamed the weather, stress, anything else. Then a friend suggested it might be dairy. No way, I thought. I've been drinking milk my whole life. But I gave it a try. I cut back on the milk, switched to almond milk. I tried oat milk in my coffee. I started choosing lighter cheeses and having them less often. And you know what? My digestion improved within days. My throat felt clearer. My energy came back. I slept better. It wasn't dramatic, but it was consistent and real. Not everyone needs to give up dairy, but here's the truth. As we age, many of us naturally produce less lactase, the enzyme that helps digest milk. That can lead to bloating, gas, brain fog, and inflammation. And if you've been feeling off and can't quite figure out why, it might be worth taking a closer look at your dairy intake. You don't have to cut it all out. Just be mindful. Try alternatives. There are plenty now. Almond, oat, coconut, cashew. Some of them are delicious. And your body might just thank you for giving it a little break. We don't lose our strength or clarity overnight. Sometimes it's the little choices, like what's in our coffee cup, that make the biggest difference. 10. Fast food meals. Burgers, fries, and drive-through comfort. I'll be the first to admit, fast food used to be a lifesaver for me. On long drives, busy days, or when I just didn't feel like cooking, pulling into that drive-through felt easy, predictable, even a little comforting. I had my go-to order, a burger, fries, and maybe a small shake if I was feeling indulgent. It felt like a treat, a little escape from the routine. And in some ways, it was tied to good memories. Nights out with friends, road trips, quick lunches during work years. But as I moved into my 60s, fast food didn't feel the same. It started to stick to me, not just in my waistline, but in how I felt afterward. Heavy, sluggish, bloated. Sometimes I'd feel fine while eating, but a couple hours later, I'd crash hard, tired, irritable, foggy-headed. It took me a while to connect the dots. See, most fast food is engineered, yes, engineered, to make us want more. High in salt, sugar, unhealthy fats, and preservatives, with low-quality carbs that spike blood sugar and then leave us drained. Worse yet, the oils they use for frying? They're often reused again and again, breaking down into compounds that trigger inflammation throughout the body. That means more joint pain, more digestive trouble, and yes, more mental fatigue. As I began to look into the science, something hit me hard. Fast food meals are linked to increased risks of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cognitive decline, especially when eaten regularly. For older adults, that risk multiplies because our bodies can't recover as quickly as they used to. But let me say this. I didn't quit cold turkey. I didn't ban myself from ever stepping foot in a drive-thru again. What I did was shift my mindset. Instead of fast food being my fallback, I started preparing simple meals at home. Meals I could freeze and reheat when I was tired. Things like roasted vegetables with grilled chicken, brown rice bowls with beans and avocado, even healthier sandwiches on whole grain bread with hummus or tuna. And when I do eat out now, I choose wisely. Grilled instead of fried. Skip the soda. Ask for extra veggies. Believe me, most places will work with you if you just ask. The biggest change? I no longer felt like food was working against me. I felt back in control. And that's what so many of us want after 60. Not a perfect diet, but a sense of power over how we feel every day. Because here's the truth. Fast food may be convenient, but long-term, it can steal the very things we value most: our energy, our memory, our independence. After a certain age, every bite matters a little more. And once I truly understood that, I started choosing food that gave back to me, not just filled a craving for the moment. It's not about guilt. It's about wisdom. And wisdom, my friend, is what we've earned. We've just gone through 10 foods I've personally learned to avoid after turning 60. Not because I was chasing some perfect diet, but because I started listening to my body more closely. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's this. You are not powerless. You're not too old. And it is never too late to feel better, to feel clearer, lighter, stronger. We've spent decades putting everyone else first, raising families, working hard, taking care of others. And somewhere along the way, many of us forgot to care for ourselves. Not in a selfish way, but in a wise, necessary way. These food choices, they're not about perfection. They're not about shame. They're about choosing every day to support the body and mind that have carried us through a lifetime. Maybe some of the foods we talked about today are part of your daily habits. That's okay. Change doesn't have to happen overnight. It starts with awareness. It starts with curiosity. It starts with asking, is this helping me or holding me back? And if you're like me and you've had those moments where you've forgotten why you walked into a room, or felt tired for no clear reason, or noticed that you just don't feel quite like yourself anymore, you're not alone. I've been there, and so have millions of others. But here's the good news. Every meal is a new chance. Every grocery trip is a fresh start. And every small change adds up. You don't have to do it all. Just take one step. Maybe it's skipping the sugary drink today. Maybe it's reading the label before buying that low-fat snack. Maybe it's cooking something simple from scratch with love. Because you deserve to feel good. You deserve clarity, energy, and comfort. Not just to survive, but to thrive in this chapter of your life. If this video helped you, even in a small way, I'd be so grateful if you shared it with a friend or loved one, someone who might be struggling with the same questions, someone who, like us, just wants to feel better and live a little wiser. And if you'd like to keep walking this journey with me, learning, growing, and aging with intention, consider subscribing to this channel. We've got more conversations like this coming, and I'd love for you to be part of them. Until then, take care of yourself. Be gentle. Be proud of how far you've come. And always remember, it's not about being young again. It's about being wise now. Thanks for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one.